So I'm hoping that you see a big screen on your screen that says, look to the skies, the sci-fi promise of remotely controlled drones is upon us. And if you're seeing that, that's exactly the way things are supposed to be set up. My name's Tim Slater. I'm a science education professor from the University of Wyoming. My colleague, Stephanie Slater, is sitting here on the other side of the table. And we'd like to talk to you today about drones in science fiction. I'm going to do most of the talking today because I took the short straw. I don't know if that's the good thing or the bad thing, but we decided having multiple presenters was probably going to be a bit complicated today, as we're trying to show a lot of video and give a lot of examples about the different ways that drones show up in science fiction, and how many science fiction authors even took time to make predictions about the future that we're actually living in today. Also, I'm in a location where there's quite a bit of background noise, and so I'm going to continuously be trying to mute my microphone to make things better, and hopefully that'll work out for us. So, given the interest of time and my experience in talking to the fine folks here at Shore Leave, one of my experiences is that I never get to the end of my talk. So I'm going to start my talk by giving you my conclusion slide, and we'll get as far as we can. But the most important things I want you to take away when you go home tonight and say, hey, of course you're already home, and say, hey, I saw this great talk about drones in science fiction. So what did it say? Well, one is that drones are becoming an ever increasing role, both in the production of cinema and television, as well as playing a critical and central role in the storyline that we're beginning to see. And it turns out science fiction authors and screenwriters have a pretty wide, diverse view of what actually could constitute a drone. They take a lot of liberalness in what they think can work. But no matter what, and what form of drone that these authors are using, they do the same thing that Star Trek has always done to us. And that's really motivate questions about ethics, about morality, issues related to privacy, and what happens when technology comes into a society very quickly. And really begins to push on us this very delicate question of the difference between the service of technology and the intrusion of technology in our lives. But nonetheless, what drones have done is made for great stories and make for fantastic cinematography. And I want to talk about how all that begins to work. All right, so where I want to start is with a question, and that is, when someone says a drone, what is it that you imagine? Take a moment and think about what that looks like. In fact, if you could reach the chat box over there, or the questions window, go ahead and take a moment and enter in what is it you think of when somebody says drone. I'll give you a moment. Well, you're right. Drones really do conjure up a lot of different ideas. Many people often talk about the idea of an unmanned flying aircraft, something robotic, something where there's not a person in the aircraft itself. And you might be thinking about sort of your friendly neighborhood drones. When bought one at Walmart and says, hey, come on over and let's take a look at my drone. Let's fly it around the swimming pool and see what we can make happen. Or maybe you've got a mindset that begins to think about, well, what are some of the sort of stealth, secret things we can do with drones? How we use military to deliver these fantastic packages to place, whether we're talking about surveillance or whether we're talking about actually delivering living guns. Or maybe we're just thinking about a drone being some sort of AI that does terrible things to our world. Well, that's the kind of things you might think about. But let's think about what some of the authors that we've been working with that are at this conference, that have done many of the mini shows, many movies, written many of the books that we find very, very carefully. And I'll tell you what, it's pretty impressive what they can come up with. Here's a short video clip. Let's see if you know where this is from. Now, these drones are also killing machines, but they're really different than the Sentinels we just were looking at in Matrix. These drones are not flying. They're walking around on 6 legs, I believe they are. And they're sending out information back to their human operators. And they're looking particularly in not visible wavelengths, but they're looking at infrared light, which is why he's hiding in this cold tub of water, so he can begin to try to avoid being found by these particular drones. So drones can have a variety of ways that they move. They have a variety of detectors they can use, and a variety of ways that they interact with their humans. Now, these are relatively modern movies, but if you start to think back, drones have been around for quite a while. In fact, here's one of my favorite drone scenes. All right. So now, yep, we're going back 20 years there or more. You're right. And here's a place where we have a drone that's completely computer controlled. It's looking to find out where the rebel base is there on the planet Han. And of course, Han's job is to go out and destroy it before it can radio information back. Now, there's no master controller sitting somewhere off to the side who's trying to figure out what the drone's going to do next. There's an artificial intelligence computer inside the drone that's making those decisions. So we're seeing a wide variety of different types of drones that are going on here. And you might say, well, wait a minute. Are we talking about drones or are we talking about robots here? Come on, Slater, what are we really talking about? And the precise distinction between what drones and robots are is a little fuzzy. But what we do know is the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, defines an aircraft as a device that's intended for use in flight in the air. And so drones, as you think about sort of your common garden variety drone that you might find at Walmart, those are aircraft. So when we talk about drones, we talk about robots, we talk about unmanned aerial vehicles, we're kind of sloppy with our language here. But in general, the kind of drones that most people think about are these ones that have quadcopters, 4 helicopter blades that moving around with something that's remote controlled, either by a human or by a computer program. And what these drones can do today, not just in the future of science fiction, but today is really, really impressive. So let's imagine for a second, you wanted to do some shopping on Amazon. And instead of picking Prime delivery, you pick Prime Air delivery. What does that get you in terms of the drone? Just like pizza delivery, in 30 minutes or less, you could have your purchase from Amazon. And this is being used in several test markets, mostly in Southern California right now. You can imagine some of the problems that go on with trying to create this. I mean, how many drones can you have flying at once? How do you keep the drones from crashing into one another? How do you find the best pathways for drones to get there? Of course, that software certainly exists, right? UPS truck drivers and FedEx truck drivers use it. Can you imagine the highways in the sky? There would be ways to make this happen. But how many of these drones? I mean, some of you get Amazon package deliveries once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day. And plus, what about your neighbors? Becomes some really interesting problems going on in terms of how do we computer program and code all of these things to happen. But these are problems we're dealing with right now today. But these problems have been around for a while, about how you can computerize and code a drone to work with artificial intelligence to do its own thing. Let's see if you can remember this one. This is going way back machine. The Alien series, the prequel, whether it was a good movie or not, but the prequel called Prometheus used autonomous drones for mapping. They used these little tiny drones called puppies that would go down a mine shaft and look, constantly measure the distance from one side to the other, so it could create a 3D map.
Increíble.
All right. So again, what we see here is drones that are working autonomously, but in this case, trying to design a 3D map. You saw the hologram there on the table. And of course, we use this technology today, particularly in Wyoming, close to the University of Wyoming, where we have a number of mines, and we're able to map mine shafts with incredible amount of detail using these autonomous drones that send back data to render a 3D map.
700 years into the
It's not
future,
the only place we see this.
mankind will leave our planet, leaving Earth's cleanup in the hands of one incredible machine. His name is Wally. After all these years, he's developed one little glitch. A personality. He's extremely curious. And just a little bit lonely. But all that is about to change.
All right, fantastic. So even Walt Disney can get into this idea of drones that work pretty well. Somebody mentioned about closing the window for plain view. Okay, perfect. Leilani, thank you so much for helping me with this technology here. All right, I can see the chat window now. So this is a movie called Wally. Who is Wally and what's Wally's job? I'll give you a moment to text in the window, or you can tell me who is Eve and what is Eve's job. Again, Charles, you're quick on the keyboard. That's right. Wally is an autonomous drone, doesn't have any human operator, but is programmed to clean up the planet. There we bought too much stuff from the buy and load store, right? And messed up our planet. And all the Earthlings had to leave. And Wally, of course, is using artificial intelligence because Wally has to learn and be able to adapt. Of course, when you have to learn and be able to adapt, you don't know what kind of things happen. And in this case, he develops feelings for another robot called Eve. And Eve's job is to search the universe looking for signs of life. So this idea of coming up with drones that work without their operator is really important. I mean, we're doing that right now this week. So right now, this week, we are in the process of running helicopter drone flights on the planet Mars. We've just finished our 9th flight over a 30-day mission. This is
our experiment window is 30 Martian days. So we have planned up to 5 flights of incremental difficulty.
The very first flight, the main thing is we want to get the legs off the ground. And so we will basically go up about 3 meters and we'll hover there and then we'll come down again. And that will be the first, really major milestone.
Most of our flights will be at the 3 to 5 meter height. We will be going horizontally again at a few meters per second, probably go out, 50, 70 meters and come back. In successive flights, we'll probably push that further, try to go further. So our priority.
So you can imagine just how difficult this whole thing is. I mean, there's very little air on Mars, very little atmosphere. So these blades have to spin really, really fast. And as you can imagine, really fast spinning blades wear out the battery very quickly. So these drones are designed to every morning when the sun comes up, the little drone will take off, hover above the Mars rover, and take a picture of the local area, and then land, transmit that picture so that the plans can be made in terms of where the rover is going to go, where are the rocks we need to see, where are the potholes we don't want to hit. And there are solar panels on top of this thing, so it spends all day charging up. So tomorrow it can autonomously do this thing again. So autonomous drones are here. It's what we're using. But autonomous drones aren't nearly as much fun to talk about as semi-autonomous drones. Semi-autonomous drones are where you have a drone that has a number of subroutines and commands it can do by itself. But interestingly enough, everything is controlled by a human operator.
Stored within a compartment on the back of Falcon's Exo-7 flight suit, the Red Wing drone can be launched and flown remotely by Falcon via the use of a touchscreen on his left bracer. When launched, Red Wing is capable of flying, hovering, and scouting undetected. Using its advanced onboard camera, it can scan for life forms, provide information in multiple visual spectrums, and deliver real-time visuals and tactical data to Falcon's goggles.
Payload secure. Thanks, Sam.
Don't thank me.
I'm not thinking that thing.
His name is Red Wing.
I'm still not thinking it.
He's cute. Go ahead, pet him.
When caught in a confrontation, Red Wing is armed with a tow cable and twin guns, and can even be used by Falcon as a large projectile. Also possessing the ability to use its advanced flight evasive maneuverability, equivalent to that of Falcon's own Exo-7 flight suit. It's also good for catching spiders.
I'm really sorry.
You couldn't have done that earlier?
I hate you.
So Stuart mentions that the Mars helicopter drone may be the coolest drone ever. That might be, but you got to admit, any drone that a superhero can use would be really, really useful. I mean, Red Wing really makes Falcon's whole system, the whole genre of superhero-ing work out really, really well. But you know, this issue with Spider-Man continuously runs into drone problems. You may remember in the most recent Spider-Man live action movie, was he ran into problems with drones that would make holograms. You put thousands of drones in the sky and they can change the entire visual field and change what you see. Let's see how he handles it.
Give me the glasses.
You want these? Come and get them.
It's good. So even superheroes have to battle drones. Now this idea of these drones putting together a hologram is a real thing. For example, I have a very short video clip I want to show you here of a fireworks display, not done with fireworks, but done with 1,000 drones. These are drones that are programmed to shine lights and carry out a particular automated sequence in the sky. This is very, very cool. You're right. This is flipping cool. And yes, we're going to have a whole bunch more UFO reports after this thing comes out. But there, in fact, just this month, there's supposed to be a giant drone display at the Tokyo Olympics. Now, with the new changes and no spectators allowed, I don't know what's going to happen with all that. But this idea of drone displays and drone images, and even in Spider-Man, like drone holograms for imaginary monsters to fight, this stuff is coming. It's the work of today that we're seeing. Oops. Oh, sorry. This idea of drones being able to do automated tasks is a really, really important part of what people are learning when they're studying drones in schools. For example, you can imagine mapping farmland or mapping pasture land trying to figure out where your crops are growing the best, or you're looking at livestock and trying to figure out where your livestock are headed, or if the fence line is good, or if there's plenty of water for livestock to eat. This idea of coding drones for semi-autonomous work where they can carry out a sequence of things, whether or not they have to think about what's AI or not is not the issue, but being able to do repeated tasks is very, very cool. This has been around for a while, but be able to do repeated tasks.
Fascinating bird, sir. What is it?
It's a bat drone plane, Alfred.
We can direct it from here by remote control. Direct it?
Yes, if the minstrel goes on the air again, and I suspect he will, if only to taunt me, I think this bird should pick up his wavelength.
And locate his broadcasting studio.
System on, ready to fly.
Even back in the 1960s here with Janet, thanks for letting me know that the my audio doesn't work very well when the video is playing. Because what I was saying was pointing out here that today's drones are quite easy to fly, surprisingly easy. And in fact, you may have noticed that Alfred was a little nervous about being able to run the drone, even do the return homing signal. But drones today are pretty easy to fly. And in fact, this automatic homing signal is common amongst many drones today, where you're out flying the drone around and you say, return to home, it'll connect to a satellite by GPS and come right back to wherever you happen to be. Which makes this very, very cool. Let's see here. Okay, perfect. Poor man's satellite. Stuart, you're exactly right. Now, that was back in the 1960s. But what about a movie today? A movie that just came out. It's called Rotor Dr1. It's on Netflix. You can also watch it on YouTube. And this is not using automated drones, but focusing on human-operated drones. So let me see if I can give you a sense of what this storyline is. It's kind of far-fetched. It'd be hard to believe. But the far-fetched idea here is that the world has had to encounter a giant pandemic. There's been a virus all over the world that's starting to kill many people. So the various governments of the world have decided to create fleets of drones that fly around the world and deliver medical supplies, and get this, deliver vaccines to everybody. Of course, as time has gone on, the governments have collapsed, the economic system has collapsed, and all that's really left are people and a number of drones that are still flying around the world, still delivering vaccines to a population that doesn't exist anymore. And being able to capture these drones and reconfigure them and pilot them becomes an important skill in this futuristic world.
Do you know my dad? I haven't seen him in years.
Wait! Wait!
Right! Before the Fraser kid got there!
Hand it over. He's gonna kill me.
Bring in the girl.
Hey, let me go.
Get him to me. Usually go get the weapons.
So what's so special about the drone?
It's the only way I'm gonna be able to find my dad again. You're gonna get your drone under control. You're gonna win the race. You better not mess this up. I think I can do this.
Watch this turn, it's tight.
Go! Keep going! Why won't anyone take me serious?
All right, so this idea of precision flying drones in the future as a way to move up the dominance hierarchy is a pretty interesting idea. But this idea of using human operator drones with precision flight is something that's pretty important. And this is one of the reasons why many schools are training drone pilots right now to be able to do things that can't be done automatically, that really do require human control. Here is a drone that's working up for an electrical company where there's some debris stuck onto a wire. So now we're having to fly this drone. This is an 8-blade drone, an Octocopter, that's trying to figure out how to remove debris from a live electrical wire. Here's how he does it. Yep, that's right. That drone has a flamethrower. So this idea of precision flying with drones is a very, very cool idea. I mean, and be able to race against other people and determine how precise your skills are is something that people have always done anytime there was technology. You know, when Galileo invented his telescope in 1609, you could have bet the guy across the street wanted to see if he could build a better one that would see more stuff. And of course, that's true with anything human operated when it comes to drones. And in fact, colleges and universities now even have a national drone race. So as opposed to the future, where people have to race drones in order to get vaccinations and get things that they need, precision flying of drones at the college level is a very interesting sport. In fact, you may have seen this on ESPN, these esports like drone flying, phenomenally interesting sets of competitions. They don't have to happen in formal environments. Sometimes they even happen in informal environments. Here is a race that just happened recently at Fort Collins, Colorado. Not in a field house, but in a coffee shop.
We say a hello and welcome to each and every one of you joining us in our ongoing coverage of Tiny Whoop Freestyle and Tiny Whoop Racing around the globe is featured here on the official Tiny Whoop YouTube channel. Tonight we go inside of the Alley Cat Coffee House in beautiful Fort Collins, Colorado. The atmosphere is one of a kind and is a welcome home of many travelers, locals, gypsies, and hippies, visited frequently by many great artists, writers, and musicians in northern Colorado. And it is here this evening, under the guidance of cafe manager Hunter Horsfeld, that we will decide the champion of the Tiny Whoop Alley Cat Coffee Cup Invitational, the final stop before the World Championships. For 3 consecutive evenings, some of the best micro racers in the industry have yawed, pitched, and rolled their way around the course, crashing into coffee mugs, punching out full throttle into serving stations to the amazement of patrons and racing fans. Through practice, qualifying, and elimination rounds, our field has been narrowed to our fastest coffee house racers, each poised to claim the top of the podium, yet knowing the final grid is full of former and reigning champions of drone racing.
All right, so here we're looking at drone racing, both in an informal sense and a formal sense. And people are taking this stuff pretty darn seriously. And again, you can watch this stuff on ESPN if you want. But in these cases, we're all looking at drones that are all in the same location. But I want you to imagine here for a second, we'll do a little Ender's Game thinking on you here, is what if you could do this racing virtually? Now I've got a static image here. It's going to take a moment to explain what we're looking at here. So in the top right-hand corner, we've got a couple of announcers. One of these folks is in Singapore, and one of these folks is in Toronto, and they're doing a play-by-play of the drone race you're about to watch. Notice they're not in the same place. In fact, this is a completely virtual drone race going on with people from all over the world. In the bottom right-hand corner, you're seeing the course, and the little dots there you see there are the actual drone paths. Kind of like watching hockey if you haven't seen much of that before. But in the top left-hand corner, what I want you to pay attention to, this is what the drone sees. This is what the camera out the front of the virtual drone would see if it was actually racing. So you're going to get to see a lot of action going on here for this virtual race, which is happening in real time, but not in any one particular location.
Taking at such a slant angle, it's more of a U-turn than a launch and a dive as it was for me in the course description. Still second place, Lonnie King following super tight behind Sharker, and they're in the same course feature at the same time, taking hard angles through these turns. And oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. I'm still riding with King. He's still right behind Sharker. Sharker extends his lead by just a few feet now. But, ooh, and they both take that corkscrew a little sloppy. Was an opportunity for King.
So you can participate in drone racing even if you don't go to a drone racing place, even if you don't leave your house. I guess you call this COVID-friendly racing, where there are virtual races that you can sign up and win big money on these races. So you can participate in drone flying right from the comfort of your own home, while you're in your bunny slippers, living in your basement, wherever you happen to be doing it. All right, so we've talked about here the drones come in a wide variety of all right, hopefully you're seeing my screen. Let's see, how do I get rid of that? There we go. All right, so the found thing I was saying at the time was all this technology is very, very cool. And whether we're talking about in current day or the kinds of things that science fiction authors have pushed, the real question is, how does this technology impact us, both positively and negatively? And the line is not very clear. What I'd like to show you next is a short commercial from Audi. This is a commercial for a car that's supposed to, using a concept car that will be released in 2023. And the car is kind of ugly, but what I want you to notice is how the system uses drones as part of the car's system. Yes, drones attached and used to the car. Now I need to set this up for you because I've shortened the clip. This is two young women who are going out camping in their brand new Audi, and they're using their drones for helping them with a variety of things to do their camping. But these are the Audi drones. All right, so what do you think? Is this cool or what? Idea of drones that can follow you around, that can provide lighting for you. It's an issue of safety, issue of security, or is this an issue related to privacy? So where's my next piece here? I mean, these follow me drones are very, very cool. In fact, I want to show you a short video clip for a drone that's available right now. It costs about $3,500, and they can barely keep these things in stock because they have something called follow me technology. This follow me technology is really, really fantastic. And it's really not very expensive. You can imagine all the interesting ways you could use this for your own social media presence, for advertising any kind of athletics you might be doing. I mean, there's a wide variety of things you can imagine how a drone that's designed to follow you and only you can be used for safety issues. But you might also begin to wonder where this could go wrong. It's a new Netflix series, if you haven't seen it yet. It's very interesting, called Omniscience. And Omniscience is this idea that in the future, for your own safety, everybody has a companion drone that follows them all the time. And this companion drone with video records everything you do. Wow. Are drones that can follow us all the time a good thing or a not so good thing? Is it service or is it intrusion? Is it safety or is it a real problem? I mean, I suppose if our government and the governments around the world would only use this for good, everything would be great. But I believe most of science fiction is about how our governments don't always do what's best for us. So we're about out of time here, but I want to have one last video clip that I want to show you here from science fiction. It's my very first memory of a drone. When someone says drones, and I think back to science fiction, it's the one that I always come back to. So I hope you enjoy this because it's the one that I remember as being most important, because this is for good.
Stretch out with your feelings. See? You can do it. I call it luck.
Now, of course, Han Solo thinks it's luck. This is the famous scene where he said, why would you need a lightsaber when all you need is a good blaster at your side? But clearly, here's a place where drones can be used in training in a way that hurts you, but in fact is still a good thing. I really enjoyed chatting with you today. Thank you for working with me with these technical hiccups as we try to make this thing work and be safe, but still spend time together celebrating technology and science in the